Welcome to Find Your Tribe podcast. We're broadcasting from beautiful Portland, Oregon. My name is Annie Lavender Weller. I'm a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians and co-founder of the Leadership Lab, which is a career, academic, and transitional coaching nonprofit. I'm also a serial entrepreneur, author, and International Coaching Federation, ACC certified business coach and consultant. Welcome to my podcast, Find Your Tribe. Well, I'd like to welcome DeShawn Fontleroy. He is a sports performance coach that helps individuals and groups reach their hopes and dreams, overcoming their pains and fears, and destroying all barriers and limitations. He's worked with high school, college, professional athletes through practical and systematic strategies. DeShawn helps athletes master their confidence, strengthen their mental toughness, and increase their social intelligence, and also achieving their goals. Welcome, DeShawn. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me. DeShawn and I know each other through our podcast Founders Roundtable, and I had to ask him to be on my show.
Thank you, Annie, for having me on. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your show. And I give you 2 thumbs up for pronouncing my last name correctly the first time.
Did I do it?
Yeah,
because I wrote it down how you told me it sounded.
You got it.
That's a clue for anybody that's doing anything along this, anything speaking. You write down your speech and how it sounds like, not in correct language.
Agreed.
So Find Your Tribe means anything and everything to people. So really what I want to ask you is, what does finding your tribe mean to you?
Well, finding your tribe, to me, it means having a group or a collection of people that you can turn to, whether it's hard times, whether you need more information or knowledge, whether you're going through some type of a hardship, or just having people in your corner that you can lean on.
So I'm just really curious. I know that people think like finding your tribe, leaning on. And I know one of the things that you do is a lot of your athletes that you call them is, well, they are athletes, but they really lean on you for guidance. In me, as a business coach and business consultant, I sort of do the same thing. We keep people accountable. We make sure they're achieving their goals. Can you tell me a little bit about how you do that and how you build that tribe?
Well, it's interesting. I was working with an athlete about 3 years ago, and he was an African-American male living in an affluent community in Camas, Washington, and he felt that he wasn't getting the best opportunity to perform, and there was a time when he was considering transferring schools to a local school in Portland, and his dad let him make the decision. So we didn't pressure him. I just told him that whatever decision that you make is the right decision. And here's the pros and the cons. And if you go to the school in North Portland, you're going to be the only black male over there with a car. So you're going to make a lot of friends and you're going to have a lot of distractions immediately.
Yep.
But if you choose to stay at the current school that you're at, you know what to expect. If you only get 3 or 4 plays a game, you have to make those the best 3 or 4 plays that you get from an offensive standpoint. So he decided to stay at the school. So within that, I had to help him build a strategy from week to week to be successful. And that's pretty much how the sports mastery program started, where I started doing all this research on sports psychology, mental toughness, and then that led us to goal setting. So essentially, we would set goals from week to week. And if there was times where he made mistakes or he maybe failed at a certain play or performance, we would go back and look at that. But the goal was to keep him in line throughout the whole season in terms of having a positive mental attitude. And at the end of the day, when the season was over, he led the team in rushing with 50% of the carries. He led the team in touchdowns. And then he was the one kid. He was one of 2 kids that got a scholarship. And today he's at the University of San Diego, which is one of the top schools academically on the West Coast. And with his success, brought the work that helping him literally started reading a bunch of books, making notes on napkins and creating assignments through that on scratch paper. And eventually those notes turned into a workbook.
So that's how you started your business?
Before, and I still do, I work with athletes from a physical standpoint where I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and we train to enhance speed, jumping mechanics, or we train to enhance speed-specific strength, explosive power, and linear sprint mechanics. So I knew that he would show up from a physical standpoint. I wasn't concerned with that. My concern was getting him through the whole season during those times where he might not start a game, or if he was feeling frustrated with the coach, to have a positive attitude and then to go out and perform and practice as if it was game day from week to week. And that was the tough part, because when I was growing up, I failed at those things. And I wish I had like myself or a mentor that had been through the process. Fortunately enough, I was able to go to college and later play some semi-pro football, and then sign 2 different indoor football contracts with 2 different teams. So I was able to give him a significant amount of my experience, and then go along with that and do some outside research. And then fortunate enough to have a tribe of licensed clinical social workers, licensed clinical psychiatrists, and then psychologists that I could lean on or go talk to them, ask questions, and then get references and resources.
So how long have you been working on your business?
The sports mastery part of my business is I'm probably about 4 years in on it. Last year was the first year that I did a pilot project with athletes, with 10 to 12 athletes, where we just went through my whole workbook from start to finish, where we would meet once a week, and then we would all talk by phone for 15 minutes throughout the week. And then this starts with them, first of all, recognizing fear, and learning how to define it, recognize it, and then embrace it, because there's always going to be some type of fear, but we want to take action and go at it versus staying stagnated or just not doing anything at all.
So people that listen, some are athletes, some are not. But what kind of advice could you give the people that are listening right now in regards to fear and overcoming fear? That seems like a real basis or foundation of what you're teaching these athletes.
Well, if you're a parent or a coach and you're listening to this right now, and if you have kids that are athletes, whether they're in middle school, high school, or college, the best thing that I could say to you is have an open ear and listen to your athletes or listen to your kids. And then from there, we want to figure out what's really bothering them, what's stopping them from performing to either their expectations or the coach's expectations, because there's always something. There's a reason for failure, and there's also a reason for success. But the biggest part that I found is that young athletes, they need a voice. They need some people. Sometimes they just need people in terms of the parents, coaches, or other mentors that they might have that'll just listen to them. And sometimes just listening and not saying a word is enough for them to gain some confidence. And
that really honestly can go across the board in any human being, really, if you think about it. I mean, we all need community. We all need to find, quote unquote, that tribe.
Certainly.
And so what makes your program or makes what you do so different than what other people are doing?
Well, if I was to meet you in an elevator, I would just tell you that I'm an architect of human performance, plain and simple. But it's a personal development program. And what that's about is there's a bunch of lessons in the sports mastery program, or the science of sports mastery, that also applies to life. So my goal, or what makes this program different, is I'm helping the student athlete and the parent bridge the gap. I help the student athlete and the coach bridge the gap in communication. I help the student athlete and the parent bridge the gap in communication. Now, from there, it's about, what are you playing sports for? What's your purpose? So what evolves when we find that purpose is their legacy as a student athlete, because this is about life. Sports is one thing, but where you're going to end in life, this is really just a stepping stone.
So you look at their athletic performance and who they are as an athlete as a stepping stone in part of their life?
Yes. 9 times out of 10, if I have 10 or 15 athletes in a room, and if I ask who wants to go play Division I sports, they all raise their hand. Mm-hmm. I've never had someone not raise their hand when it comes to playing Division I sports. Now, the problem with that is, are you willing to take the action? Are you willing to go through the steps and the process? Because that's what we talk about. This thing, the science of sports mastery, it's about systems and strategies to go through the process, because you are going to have some hardship.
Yes.
If you're not having any hardship, you're probably not the person you're not going to excel.
And how are the kids? How do they accept that hardship? How do they accept the fact that there's going to be fear, there's going to be disappointment? I know there was somebody I was talking to, and they did not know how to talk to some of our clients in regards to what happens if you don't get the job. If you interview really well and you go forward in the process and then you get dropped off, you've had so many disappointments already. How do you really move forward? How do you explain that, to a kid?
I like the kids know that you are going to make mistakes. That has to happen, and that's part of the process. And it's really about how you respond after that. If you get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. That's something that I heard Denzel Washington say. And I take that to mean that if you fail or if you have a bad game or if you make a mistake, it's about what did you learn from it? And then did you make that failure or did you make that mistake given 100% effort? See, it's one thing to make a mistake, and if you're kind of being tentative or if you're going half speed or if you're making half the effort, and this is even in the classroom too, because you can't expect the best grade if you put half the effort. If you gave 100% effort, was at class every day, did all the assignments, and you got a C, how could you be mad at yourself if you're in a class and you're talking about biological functions of the brain, from a psychology standpoint? So sometimes it's just not your time, but over time, if you stay with it, eventually you're going to have the breakthrough. So I convince the kids that this is okay, but it's about the effort, and it's about a really an honest and diligent effort to go forward.
So how has this affected your life? It sounds like, about 4 years ago, you decided to move forward and, travel a different road. How has this changed your life?
I met a gentleman about 5 years ago, and no offense to the religious community, but he loved my energy in a way that he felt that I should be a reverend for the youth and do this whole religious thing. And I kind of rejected that. I felt that wasn't my calling. But my calling, the way I saw it at the time, my calling is helping athletes through sports. So it's kind of similar and the same, but there's no religious undertone or overtone to it. So my life has changed where I've heard the parents of athletes come up to me and say, hey, since he's been in your program or since she's been in your program, they're cleaning their room. They're washing the dishes. They're doing their homework. They're performing better at school. And for me, that's the biggest praise or testimonial that I could get outside of I don't care really what you did on the field, diamond or court. When I hear that you're a better student, you're a better son or daughter at home or a better sibling, that's when I could really, I guess you could say, pat myself on the back, because it's about, the person. And that's where it goes back to long-term personal development.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your business and making that leap from working for somebody to working for yourself, and how did that work out for you, or how did that start?
I've been in the gym industry for a while. I had worked at different corporate gyms, different mom and pop gyms. I don't have a degree in exercise science. I don't have any fancy certifications. When I got involved, I did go through the American College of Sports Medicine. It was more of a clinical certification, and I did start off working with adults. And later on, I did some Nike football camps, some Nike baseball camps, and just the energy of being around young athletes. It kind of compelled me to start going down that road in terms of sports performance. And working in the gym industry, I've always been ambitious. I've always wanted to do it my way, whether it's raise the price for training or group training and telling somebody else how to do it. And that led to me getting fired a number of times or being released until, I've always had a personal business on the side. But at some point, I just got to a mindset where I'm not going back to work for anybody else. I'd rather die before this happens. And there's been a few times where my business was struggling or things were just slow. And I just stayed with it because I have friends that are like, D, I got a place for you. I need a manager. I need a fitness manager. I need an assistant club manager. But for me, I get nauseated when I think about that. I get bad thoughts because I really enjoy what I'm doing. And when you stick with something, eventually you get some breaks. And, I'm to a point now where I don't have to worry about struggling anymore. And it's about just really building relationships.
So what about personal life?
How do you mean that?
How has your business or moving from, it's struggling. I'll be honest, it's a struggle. Sometimes one month you'll be making $10,000 and the next month you might not have anything coming in. And I know sometimes my husband's very supportive of me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better husband. But I mean, I do have an ex-husband.
Well, right now I am single, and the business side, I can speak from experience, and I know you know this. You do have to have someone, if y'all are together, they do have to be supportive of what you're doing and the ups and the downs, because you are going to face some hardships. And sometimes people, and it's no offense to the everyday worker bee, they're not going to really understand, what it's like to be, self-employed or an entrepreneur, because sometimes we're up early in the morning and sometimes we're up late at night. So there is a balance, to the relationship dynamic. So
how are you working on that? Where do you get your support from? Family, friends?
I have family, friends, and I have mentors.
Okay.
Some of the same people that are my friends that are licensed clinical social workers, that are psychologists. I can go talk to them. I'll go do some of their group workshops and go through it, and because it's all about self-development. I can't help the young athletes work on themselves unless I'm working on myself at the same time. So a lot of my athletes, they don't know this, but I go through the same steps that they go through. I list my fears out. If I tell you to just go make eye contact and make small talk with 5 strangers, I go do the same thing at New Seasons or Whole Foods, because for me, naturally, I'm an introvert, but when you're an entrepreneur, or if you've ever worked in sales, nobody's going to swipe their card unless you're talking, and you have to be able to build relationships. And I call myself a practicing extrovert.
That's what I am too. Yeah. So got to wrap up, and I got to ask my final question. Any tips for others finding their tribe?
You know what? I use places to network. Like they have Portland Connect here in our town. Meetup is an outstanding place. If you go to meetup.com, that's how I found our Podcasters Roundtable, and I found our first Podcasters Conference here in Portland. But Meetup has so many different groups for photographers, videographers. You can find people that have a group on podcasting, fitness, whatever you want. I am starting to take advantage of meetup.com because I had slept on Meetup for a number of years. I would also take advantage of updating your LinkedIn profile.
Okay. Well, I think you need to come on next time and talk to me about that, because I'm a little lost with my LinkedIn profile. I try, but it frustrates me. It just frustrates me. I'm trying to be nice here. I'm not, I've been out of the studio for a while, trying not to drop any F-bombs too quickly. That's probably next episode. I'll start dropping those. But I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm looking forward to you coming back. Will you come back?
Yes, I will come back. I have, you can find me at sportsmastery.com. I also on there have a free ebook that's the 5 mistakes that all athletes make. So take advantage of that.
I was just going to ask you, how do people find you? Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you at the next roundtable.
Thanks again, Annie.
Find Your Tribe podcast is a conversation with guests addressing all aspects of what makes our businesses and personal lives unique. We will balance traditions with new methods, respecting the past while acknowledging the need to embrace new methods and technologies. Finding Your Tribe podcast uncovers the personalities behind the businesses, the leaders who paved the way, and the essential heart of what makes our tribes run. Please visit me at annieweller.com for more information.